Hello, my name is Jammin Tarsi, and I hope you enjoy this video. This is my Broken Brain Polymer Clay Cane class. In this class, I will teach you how to make this beautiful Kaleidoscope Broken Brain cane. I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe. And on a side note, this is the first time I used a phone instead of an iPad to record my video. It didn't work out that well, but overall the video is complete and intact. I do go off screen a few times, so please pardon that. If you are already a caner and would like to see how these cane cradle tools are used, look towards the end of the video. That's where I show that part. The tools you see here are cane cradles. They're made for perfecting the shapes of your canes to put them into perfect kaleidoscope forms. My design of these, with the help of Kira McCoy from Cradle, made these a reality a few months ago. We already have 3D printer people copying our design. Please support the originators. The link to purchase these will be in the comments, in the description. These are a few tools that you don't have to have, but they make perfecting your blends and your canes much better. These are my Blendangles triangles. They come in 4 sizes. I developed Blendangles blending templates years ago in an effort to make more perfect blends using the full width of my pasta machine. They are also available at Cradle. Look for the link in the description. This is the 180 size. This fits across your pasta machine. Here. This is a 150 pasta machine, but you can see this is wider. This fits across a 180 pasta machine. Using the full width of your pasta machine allows you to make more perfect blends for better canes. Be sure to look in my video playlist for videos on how to use these templates in more ways than I show here. They are a great tool. You can also use it this way, which is a little tight, but it'll start your blend off all the way to the edges on a 150. But I use that in other ways. And this is the small mini triangle. There's 2 mini triangles. This gives you multiple cuts for rainbow blends. These, Kira from Cradle helped me design these. I've had this idea forever. These are called cane cradles. They're for perfecting the shape of your canes for either a 6 repeat kaleidoscope cane or a square 4 block square cane. And we'll get back to those later. Other things you might need, I use painter tape for different things, and you'll see later what I use that for. And then just your basic tools. Now, as far as clay goes, I've started keeping my most used tools right here all together so I don't have to go searching. This is how I store my clay. This is about 30 blocks of clay already sheeted, and I have it in an order. There's translucent and then white, and some of these are doubles. Zinc yellow as opposed to cad yellow. Wasabi. This is the only color that's really not a primary color in a sense. Cobalt blue, fuchsia or magenta. I'm sorry, cyan or turquoise, fuchsia or magenta. And I store my clay, this is how I store it. They're all in the thickest setting, so I know they're all the same. This is pomegranate red, pomegranate red is basically a mix between fuchsia and cad red. And I don't know the percentage. I think it's 35%, 65%, but I'm not quite sure. I could look that up. Ultramarine blue. And there was my fuchsia, pomegranate, and cad red. Alizarin crimson, which alizarin crimson and magenta are not the same. If you add a lot of white to this, it'll look like that, but it has a kind of a brownish tone to it compared to the real magenta. And then I have burnt umber and black. Those are really the only colors of opaque clay that I buy. There's no reason to buy all the pale muted colors that are all washed out. You can mix with just these colors. You can mix any color you want to make. And actually, you don't even need all these colors. You really just need these two and one of the yellows. Now, cad yellow has a little bit of orange or red in it, so it's more of a yellow-orange color. The zinc yellow, I don't know if it has green in it, but it's more of a green tone. So this is a warm yellow, this is a cooler yellow. But with these three colors, you can mix any color you could possibly want. You can look up Maggie Maggio's Smashing Color. Look up CYM Color Mixing Theory. It's all out there. Anyway, if you want to learn more about color mixing with polymer clay primaries, check out this book by Lindley Hunani and Maggie Maggio. It's the color mixing Bible for polymer clay. I'll set this aside. And then there's my translucent. And that's regular translucent. The white translucent I like, but it has an optical brightener in it. And if you're mixing this in with other colors, it can change the way your colors look under different light. Wasabi, I use wasabi when I want to make my greens pop. It has a neon quality to it that can give you a bigger range of greens. Like if you were going to make a rainbow blend using yellows and blues, all the yellows and blues, adding this in can change and give you other versions of green. I believe it has some neon in it. Anyway, that's how I keep my clay. Now what we're going to be doing, we're going to be making a rainbow blend using my small mini triangle, and I'm using a 180 machine. So I will show you the setup. The difference between using this from a 180 or a 150, you get an extra triangle set up across the span of your machine. And we'll be using this to make a black and white blend. And I'll get set up for that and be back. Now, these are the colors I picked. I want to make more of a fall palette as opposed to just a true rainbow blend. So I picked the cad yellow, the pomegranate, the fuchsia, and the turquoise. So when these two mix together, you get a nice purple, a really nice purple, and then some of the burnt sienna. So I will cut out triangles and come back. Now, just to show you how these work. Okay, so this is my original. I used to have them made out of an acrylic, but they were very expensive, and the whole set was about, for the 4 different triangles, the 2 large, the 150, the 180, and the two mini, was about $26 plus shipping. And they work well, but like you can see here, acrylic over time, even if you don't clean it with alcohol, it can start developing cracks. This plastic is much thinner, but it's very stiff, and it holds up really well. And the whole set of these, I believe, is like $14 on Create Along. I'll put the link in the comments. So, but it's really easy. So I already have all my clay laid out. So when I sit down, I'm ready to work. I just put this on here. Use my needle tool. Yes, you could use a blade, but I find this much faster. And you're making blends, so these, you know, need to stay in shape, but they don't have to be exactly perfect. I'm gonna cut 3 of everything. I really only need 2 of each, but I'm going to make a little bit extra blend for another project at the same time. In case I was off camera. Okay, so this is 3 at the thickest setting. And I'm going to do that with all of my chosen colors. And I'll be back. You can see in this picture how I have 5 full triangles and 2 half triangles. That is the setup for a 150 Atlas. For a 180 Atlas, you add 1 more full triangle. There's a larger of the 2 mini triangles that you use to span the width of your 150 or 180 pasta machines respectively. You can see here, and I will add better pictures into the video. This is for a 150 Atlas. It's my 150 blending triangle. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 whole triangles and 2 halves on each end. For the 180, you have 6 whole triangles and 2 halves on each end. 6 triangles plus 2 half ones on each end. The 150 is 5 triangles with a half on each end. So here are all my triangles. Now I added wasabi green because I wanted another color. 2, 4, 6 colors. I'm using a 180 pasta machine, so I need an extra color if I'm going to use 6 different colors. So when we do our setup, I usually try to set up the ends of the blends with similar colors, like 2 reds. So there's a pomegranate red. Now the end is a half triangle, and then we're going to have 6 full triangles. The other thing is you don't want to put colors next to each other that are going to make mud. Red and green mixed together make mud. So something along the line of the color wheel. Now I know I'm going to use brown, the burnt umber, for my other end. And so now I have a starting point. So let's do burnt umber with yellow. And then we'll do green. I'm trying to have some fall colors. Then we'll do the turquoise or cyan. And then magenta. That's 4. And we're going to have some orange, so I'm going to do yellow again. I'll have to cut some more yellow. Now, I did 4 of each except for the brown because I knew I was going to have the brown on the end. So there's your setup. That's set up 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoops, no, that's only 5. So what I can do is choose a whole magenta here, or a whole red here, and add my other brown to the other end. That way I have brown on both ends. So this will make me a rich brownish red color that will go into an orange, that'll go into a brighter orange, that'll go into a purple, that'll go into some lighter, brighter greens, some more brighter greens, and then some brownish dead leaf colors on the end. All right, so there's my setup. Now, most time I want to make double this. Double this is enough for what I make when I make one of my canes, which is about 5 inches long and about 1.5 inches to 2 inches tall, as far as a triangle goes. So that's the size of this, the ending size, and probably about that long. That's what I shoot for to make my canes, okay? So, and I know that if I use 2 layers of this, that's enough for that size cane. So now you'll see people make the 2 big triangles and fold them in half, and they just fall apart. The better way to do it is, with my triangles, is you go the other direction with each color. And you cut my brown in half. When I sit down to work, I might think of a theme like I did here with, you know, a range of an idea of fall colors that I wanted to have. But I really don't plan, you know, a lot of times I just make blends. And I will show those to you if I can easily find them. I just line up the colors. That one's very pale. You can barely see the difference in colors. And I make rainbows. And then when I make something with them, if I have a leftover, this is how I store them. And any scrap from them, I keep here. Now this one's, except for the blue, more of a fall palette. But anyway, that's how I do that. If you watch my earring video for 1 baked 0 sanding earrings, you'll see more about that. So finish lining up my blend. Okay, and then my half brown. That's right. So now everything's crisscrossed. A little roll to stick them together. Now, before I move this, I can take it off the plastic. Typically, I work on cardstock because I don't want stuff to stick and distort. So here's my blend. You can see how they're all crisscross. So when I put this through my pasta machine, it's not going to splay apart. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and set up my black and white blend also. That's a separate blend. And I can do that real quick here. And the thing about my triangles, this is very thick. But the thing about my triangles is, I need to make this thinner. It's too much clay for making a blend. So instead of being on the thickest setting, I'm going to go to the third thickest setting. And I'm going to actually run my white through first, because I don't want to get it dirty. Okay, so I'm going to cut my white triangle. And in this case, I don't need to make a double layer of this. If I want to make a small 2-color Skinner blend, I can just use one triangle instead of folding it over in half and matching up the two. Set that over there. So there's one, and I'll show you how to deal with that. This is the 180 side. This is the side that will go on the rollers. Now I'll cut my black. I want to do that on a deli wrap so I don't stain my card. I work on poster board is what this white paper is. I don't like stuff to stick unless I'm not going to move it again. Okay. These are called Blendangles, my plastic triangles. Okay, so now this black clay is very soft. I want to offset them a little bit because I want to have some pure color at the ends. And I just leave it there. I don't cut it away. It's not a big deal. And we're going to cut this in half. And it's okay that that fell apart. Now, usually what you see people do is fold it over. But if you just lift it and bring it down, like I did with that one, you put the triangles together, they will be fine. I'm just going to bend that back on itself. And then I will blend this one first on my 180 pasta machine. And it's a little bit of a tight fit, but I want it that way because if it's tight when you start, it doesn't have to stretch out to get to the ends of your rollers, and your blend will stay more true. With thinner sheets of clay, you will be making smaller canes, using the same size triangle for your blends. Now the first thing I did is I put that through flat without folding it in half because I didn't want to overwhelm my pasta machine. But you can see that stayed pretty straight. Now we're going to fold it white to white. A little piece of schmutz on there. White to white and black to black. And I line up the edges and then I just touch in the middle. I don't press the whole line because then you can trap air. I gotta quit. I got a new foot pedal and I keep forgetting to use it and using the button instead of the foot pedal. Okay, my dogs are calling. I will finish blending this and I will be back. Okay, here's my blend after about 5 or 6 passes. And you can see all the color change. Now one thing, I'm using a motor. And I don't let my motor just run and then try to put my blend on it. I always set my blend and get it seated on the rollers and then turn it on, because otherwise you run the risk of it catching a corner and pulling your whole blend through crooked. Another thing, you will find that in your different settings in the middle range, setting 3, 4, or 5, they're less wonky sometimes. So when you get a blend and you're blending it and it starts getting a tail, that's for 2 reasons. One, this clay is softer than the white clay. The black is softer than the white. The second thing is because your pasta machine rollers might be a little tighter at one end than they are at the other. But when you use your full width of your pasta machine to begin with, your colors will stay true. I don't flip it end to end with, put the black on one end, one roll, and then put the black on the other end, the next roll through, because that gets you off, and sometimes you'll get this little bit of wonkiness, which is not a problem for a 2-color blend, but it just keeps your blends more in line. Now you can see I cut a little bit of that tail off, and I'm going to do it again. And that's only because my clay is softer. But what happens, you see these lines that are going over like that, that means some of the clay is moving out of its lane. So if this was specific lanes, it's moving out of its lane, and eventually that'll stop. I'm almost done blending. This is going to be a bullseye, so it doesn't really matter that it's a little off like that. If you were doing really precise cane work, then yes, you want to make sure your blends are even. But this is setting 5 on my machine. I'm going to go down to setting 4. I'm using a Makins machine. My motor fits a Makins. Now, if you watch what I'm doing here, I'm trying to get this to be more of an even square. I'm on number 4. And because of that extra sticky stuff here, if I start about a third of the way over and stretch towards the white out, that will pull the clay that way. So this next pass, there's slightly less clay here, and there's slightly less clay here, so it should come out pretty much a perfect rectangle. Good enough. Okay, so now I'm going to make 2 bullseyes with this. I should measure, but I don't. Let me trim this a little bit off here. This will go into my gray or black pile for blackout. I'll stretch this up just a little bit. And somewhere in here I have a ruler. So it's 13 centimeters, so 6.5, which is right where I was. Here's my long workhorse blade. It covers the span. This is a floor scraper blade, and they're pretty sharp when you get them new. They're very sharp, actually. This is made by a company called Persona. I buy them at Lowe's. I used to sell them. I bought a big box, but it's just easier for people to go to Lowe's. They're in the tile department, not in the flooring department. They're in the flooring department, but in the tile department. And they're hanging on a card, and there's 5 in a pack and a plastic tube for about $9. All right, so we're going to make 2 different bullseyes. One is going to be rolled with the white in the center, and one is going to be rolled with the black in the center. And so I'm going to thin these down a little bit. I'm going to go up to a 6. Now we will be putting these in our cane, these bullseyes, and it's nice to have two variations. So this one, I'm going to roll from the black. Let's see where my fingers are here. From the black to the white. And these are going to be rolled out fairly small. You just don't want any air bubbles in them. Press in the ends. Get a tight roll when you start. This clay is very soft. I don't usually work with clay this soft, but it is what it is at this point. I prefer to leach my clay so that it's not sticky. And there we go. But when it is soft like this, the end really works in nicely by itself. Okay, that is good. There's one. Now this one I'm going to start rolling with the white end. And the white's a little off. I'm just going to trim that a little bit. Start rolling. While I'm doing this, I'll tell you about the broken brain cane we're going to make. For as long as I've been claying, which is going probably on 20 years, there's always been a brain cane out there. And then there was different versions. And aside from the normal one where you take a rainbow blend and put a thin layer of black and white on it and squish it into a kind of like a brain pattern, you know, that's one version. There's versions using thicker and thinner layers of clay. And then I've seen Randy Ketzel's, I have her tutorial for what she called her biology brain cane. In her cane, she put bullseye dots in it. And she called that a biology brain cane. So hers was a rainbow blend with little rods of bullseyes in it, and then a layer of black and white, and then it all scrunched up. But mine is called a broken brain cane. It's a little bit different, and I will show you when we get there. Now, the reason I like to work on this is poster board, the shiny side of poster board. Especially for a demo, it's great because it stays fairly clean, nothing sticks to it. Okay, now I'm going to blend this, and once again, it's as wide as my pasta machine. I'm going to put it through the same way every time, and any color that I get is going to get a tongue that's softer than the others, is going to get a tongue on the end. Now, one thing, I want to have as many different color changes. So, if we're blending this, and say this zone right here, you know, that's going to go from more yellow into oranger, and then more magenta, and then start immediately turning into the purple side. Well, I want some zones of pure color here. So how you do that is get a little cutter. This is a Kemper cutter. It's probably 1 centimeter in diameter. It's probably 5/8 of an inch, or 7/8. No, half an inch. It's probably a half an inch, but on here it's 1 centimeter. And wherever there's points here, I'm going to cut out a half circle. Didn't really need to do it on the end, but oh well. That end I did, not this end. So what this will do, doing that right? Yes. Now you can cut the bottom ones too, and I should, as you will see how instead of just having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 colors, I'm going to have many more colors in my blend. Okay, so I cut the point of every one, and then I cut in the middle. That way, what you're getting, you can see here where it's leaving blank spots of pure color in between. I'm actually going to cut this yellow one a little more. All right, so this is ready. It's all stuck together. I'm going to seat it on my pasta machine on the same setting, which is the thickest setting. And then I have 2 layers of clay at the thickest setting. Running it through flat first. And this is what I have. Now save all these little bits. We're going to use those later. I try not to have any waste. So this we'll save for later. I'm going to finish blending this to a rainbow blend. Then we'll take it from there. And I ended up not making extra for my other project, but I'll do that later. I'm going to step it down 1 setting, seat it on my pasta machine. Actually, no, I'm going to fold it first. And when you fold this, what you want to do is line up all the cuts where you have the gouges from your cookie cutters, just on the first pass. That keeps your colors in line. Now, that next one, I'm going to try to line up the middle of each color to that point. I'm going to do it this way. Trying to get the middle of this into the middle of that area with every color. It's pretty much easy. They're lining up pretty much in the middle. You can see. And then after that, it's just normal blending. And then we'll just continue to blend, and I'll be back. Now, you can see here, I'm getting pure turquoise in here. And that's fine. You can see how pure my yellow is, and my magenta, and the yellow here. And one thing, I don't really want pure turquoise because that's not a fall color. So, what I'm going to do, this is turquoising and wasabi. I'm just going to take a little piece of wasabi. I don't want that getting in the magenta. Just a little bit. Wasabi. And that should be enough. And I want to make sure that's just to the right side of my turquoise. All right, back to blending. Okay, so at this point, I still have a little bit of that turquoise there, but with a little bit more blending, that'll go away. But you can see I have some, fall colors. The green's a little bright. The purple's a little bright. The fuchsia's a little bright. But I have a lot of fall colors in here, which is the pattern I'm going for. Now, we're going to adjust this a little bit. I'm going to take this and blend it together, and these are all the colors of the rainbow, basically, so they're going to make a mud color. Okay, now you can see this made like a reddish mud, okay? And my main goal was to tone down all these colors a little bit. So if I wanted this to be, and I could have just used a strip of that, which I could do that. But the main point is that I'm mixing a tiny bit of one color through all these other colors, okay? Now this is too red. So I'm going to add a little bit of green to it, and that should counteract the red. I'm also going to trim off some of these crumblies of the brown. Put those in there. And that side's good. And this should give me a more brown mud. Okay, so my mud color is not quite as red now, and I like that. So I need to roll it out. Right now it's on a 5. I'm going to go up to a 6 or a 7, probably a 6. And all we need is a very thin strip. Because we're not trying to change the colors that much. We're trying to just mute them down a little bit. So let me cut a straight line here. And I'm going to cut another straight line. And this is a little over 1/8 of an inch thick. And I'm going to cut it. See how wide it is here? I don't want to kill my yellows, because those will continue to blend out. So I'm going to cut that part away from that yellow, and some of that away from that yellow. And I actually want to boost my yellows a little bit, so I'm going to put a dot of yellow in the middle there and there. The yellow's so weak, that probably won't even change anything. Now I'm adding that brown to it, which is going to tone it down. And if I wanted more clay, if I don't think my blend's big enough at this point, what I do, and I like this for 2 reasons. It adds volume. This is translucent clay. Okay, it's almost as wide as my blend. I'm going to cut about 1.5 inch wide strip and run it through the pasta machine on my second setting, because this is the first setting. See if I can get it long. It's almost there. I'm just going to stretch it. Okay. What that'll do, that gives me more volume without changing the color. Okay, so I'm going to fold this in half and continue blending. I also like, for the second reason, and I'm going to cut along here because otherwise I might trap air. The second reason is translucent clay is just different than all the other clays and how it feels. And I think when I add it to my canes or all my clay sheets, it just makes a nicer finish when I go to sand and buff it. And we'll go back to 0. I went back to 0 because of the thickness of the translucent clay I added for the first pass, but then stepped it down to thinner settings. Don't ever condition clay on your thickest setting. It could damage your pasta machine cog wheels. Okay, so now my colors have toned down a little bit. I think I need to go through a few more passes. This is the back side, and that's what tells me I need to do a few more passes. And when I have something that looks like that, that's what I fold to the inside. All right. So there's our blend. And there's my dogs outside barking. There's the blend. Fall colors with some bright purples, which they will tone down because we're going to be making a cane and reducing it. And if it's a little bright spot here and there, that's great. I don't think it's going to be matter. I have a lot of brown, some deeper oranges. I wish I had a little more orange. I could add some more yellow into here, but I think it's fine. I'm not trying to make rainbow bright unicorn rainbow. I want some more adult colors. So anyway, and these always look better. Every one of these I've ever made, I thought, oh, that's awful, and then I make a cane out of it, and it looks great. This is a workshop I give at retreats and guild workshops. If anyone's interested in hosting a workshop, please contact me. Okay, so we have our two bullseyes, and we have our rainbow blend. Now this is on a setting 4. I'm going to bring it back to a setting 1 or 0, and if you have an atlas, a little smudge doesn't matter. All right, and you saw how this sheet relatively stayed square. I didn't have any long hair. That's because all the clay, when I condition it and sheet it up, while I'm doing that, if I notice a color is much stickier than the rest, I will leach it. And you can see leaching in, I think, my strings and stripes video. It's very easy. You roll this out to the size of a piece of copy paper. I could even do it at this point if I wanted, but these are so soft I don't want to have them be too different. And you put it between two pieces of copy paper and you sit on it for about 10 or 15 minutes. And then you re-blend it. And this can be with solid color clay or a blend. What will happen is it'll shred a little bit as you're blending it, and that's fine. It's because the outside is drier than the inside. So just keep going, it'll come back together fine. Anyway, so I have this blend. I have my bullseyes. I need to do one more thing, and that is to make a black and white strip that's going to wrap my whole cane. Now, I need to cut this in half. So first thing I'm going to do is cut off the little excess here. I like to do this with these, just to look at them and see how all the colors are going to look together. And you can see it's a rainbow, but with muddier browns. But it looks good. Okay. And I really like this red-brown at this end. Well, I like them both, actually. That's like a oak leaf, dried up oak leaf color, and this is like a rich, acorn red color. Anyway, I need to make this into a longer strip, probably. And I didn't measure for you. I don't usually measure. I have a pretty good eye. So that's almost 14 centimeters. So I'm going to do it just under 7 here. And there, mark it. Got my big workhorse blade. Okay. Now, if you really want to get crazy, and I'm not doing that tonight, you could offset this just a little bit. And if you did that, it would look something like that. Or you could flip it, which I would probably never do. Or you could stretch these out separately and basically have a really long strip like this to go in your cane. But what that would mean is your cane would start out with this color sort of, and then it would go and get to here and then go backwards, which is fine also. But I want the colors to flow in one direction. So I'm going to do this, and I need to stretch this out because, like I said, I'm not going for a very big cane, and this is quite thick. I need to be able to wrap it around some snakes and put my black and white sheet in between it. So I will thin this out. I'm going to leave it for now here because I have to make my black and white sheets. And clean this up. That's my workhorse blade. I don't use baby wipes. They leave fuzz on everything, and I can't stand the smell of them. I got a pack one time that were rotten, and they were fermented, and I just, never again. All right, so there's that. We're going to get our black and white ready. I'll tell you what, let's do this first. Let's roll these out. We're going to reduce these, and I probably have way more than I need. I'm actually going to cut this in half, a little less than half. Same with this. That way I can use these in other projects, or if I need more, I can roll these out. So these are going to get, there's my two canes. These are going to get rolled into snakes. Now, if you want to be a perfectionist, you can roll. And when I get there, I'll show you how I make these perfect, the same size the whole way down. But when you're rolling a log like this, don't roll like this. Turn your hand on an angle. That way, when you go like this, you're making dimples. Wherever your fingers are, you're making depressions. If you're on an angle, you're crossing over all those dips. Just make yourself do it. Eventually, it becomes second nature. Now this clay is really soft and sticky, so it's going fine. If your clay is firmer, take your time and think about compressing the clay, not just stretching it apart, because you'll get cracks, you'll get hollow ends. And I'll show you a little trick here. How I get mine all to be the same size. Just trying to get it down to something manageable. And you'll be able to feel if you start getting where your ends are getting hollow like that. Just press it down. You're going to cut that off anyway. All right, so this is fairly thin, somewhat even, not quite. All right, you can see the two different areas there. I'm gonna cut these off. Now I'll keep those because I might be able to use those for dots on something. Cut this in half. And let me get my high-tech super tools. These are wood dowel rods. They come in multi-packs of different sizes. And these are the sizes. And I mark the ends so that I know, you probably see it better than that, what pairs I have. And this is number 6, which is my smallest. And you can see there are some areas smaller than that. So I want these all to be the same size. And you can use knitting needles or something even thinner than this, just so they're the same. And I already went smaller than these. Let me thicken this up a little bit by pushing it back. Anyway, if you roll these like this, you will get a snake. I'm going to cut this in half because I don't want it going past the ends of my acrylic. When you get to this where this is basically rolling like that and the rods are staying in place and the clay is staying in place and not like packing up together like that, you pretty much have a perfect snake. But you need to start with it slightly bigger than what your sticks are. What I usually do is start bigger on bigger sticks and work my way down to smaller sticks. And I like the wood because don't press, you're just letting the wood set the height. You're just letting the wood set the height of the diameter of the snake. You don't have to press hard. And there we go. Okay, there's two. All right, so now we have our rainbow blend. We have our half of our bullseyes. That was the back of my blade that I was doing that with. Getting off the extra clay glue. I gotta make some with this too. I'll do that and I'll come back. Okay, there are the ends of that and the ends of the white one. That's not a very good cut. There's what we have. Okay. Now, I'm going to cut this one in a few pieces. My black's done. So I'm going to set these aside. And we're going to make our black and white sheet. Okay, now our black and white sheet needs to be as wide as this. So I marked it through the paper. Oops. Turn your blade right side up. And this is once again on the thickest setting, which is probably going to give me way too much for what I need, but I'm going to go with it. I'm running out of room already. I'm sure that happens to everybody. Alrighty. Now I need white. My white to be the same size as this. I'm just marking it. The wrong side of my blade. Get that black off of there. The light is horrible in here tonight. Good enough. Close enough. This is a little long, a little wider here, so I'm just going to stretch it out side to side. Hooks that on there. All right. So now we're going to roll this through the pasta machine. I want to make sure that it's stuck together well. This is out of a copy machine toner cartridge. All right, so we're going to start in the thickest setting. I'm going to get some paper. Actually, I'll get some of my cutting mats. These are Dollar Tree cutting mats. One side doesn't stick. The other side's slightly shiny, but still doesn't stick that much. These are great for like temporary worksheets as you're working on stuff. You need more room to set things aside. Okay, here's the first thing. That's on setting 1. I already know that's way too thick. I'm going to go down to 3. I'm going to fold this in half so we can see what the lines look like. Those are still pretty thick. They're not supposed to be half the cane. They're supposed to be an accent through the cane. So now this is also going to get through, will get rolled through. Let me roll this through on first to number 1. And that's still fairly thick. If I leave it this thick, I'll have a big, short, thick cane that, well, the cane size is going to be the same, but the pattern will be bigger. So I'll have to reduce it smaller. And if I want bigger diameter of triangle, I'd rather make it closer to the size as far as scale of pattern. So I'm going to roll this through on another setting. Number 2 on my pasta machine. And once again, 1 is my thickest setting on this pasta machine, which is thicker than my Atlas is. I think that's how much color we're going to see in the pattern. I'm going to go down 1 more. That's right. So that is, I can find my ruler. Oh man, where things go, never find out. So this is, you're probably not going to be able to see this on camera. This is about 2 millimeters thick, and that's fine. That's what I'm going with. If you do a Google search for a brain cane, you will see all versions of different thicknesses of the black and white layer. Some only have a white layer, different thicknesses or the same thicknesses of both layers together. The variation is endless. They all come out great. Just don't reduce your cane so small that you lose your patterns. And start with thicker sheets if you want a big, bold pattern. This is probably the same. I need to roll this out thinner. So that was 2 millimeters. I'm going thinner than that for this. This is, I think I'm going to take this down 1 more step. The black and white of this together is about 1.5 millimeters. I'm going to take it down to the next size. All right, there we go. So we have all our parts. Now, in a classic brain cane, what you do, and it doesn't matter which side you put it on, you put these like this, and then you scrunch them all up. You scrunch them all up into a cane. Okay, that's the classic brain cane. Randy Ketzel's biology cane, if you can find her tutorial, it was a free tutorial. You put, I think she only used this log in it, you like black wrapped. You put pieces of this every so often down the length, then you cover it with your cane, with your other sheet, and do the same thing. Now, mine is called a broken brain cane. And the reason I wanted to do it this way, if you wrap this sheet like this and wrap it all together, and then when you're all done with your cane, your whole outside of your cane is black. Well, when you put that into a triangle wedge, you have black, black, black. And when you put 6 slices together, you end up with spokes between every side. Somewhere in this video, I mentioned trimming away the black outside of my cane so I didn't have spokes. This is a cane I made from Randy's tutorial. And you can see, especially in the bottom left, the 5 spokes coming from the center. This was after trimming some of it away. This is the main reason I created my broken brain cane. And it really limits the look of your pieces. So I wanted to break up that spoke looking thing, way that it looks. So I'm just going to move some of this over here because I don't need all this at the moment. Anyway, these need to be as wide as your sheet. So I'm going to cut a bunch of these up here as wide as my sheet. And I do have extra to roll out thin if I need to. I'm doing both colors. I'm going to roll this just a little bit thinner and get 2 out of it. They don't have to be the same. This is an organic type cane. I'm going to go just a little thinner here. It's kind of thick in the middle. I would like to get 3 out of here. 1. A little thinner. Well, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to make this one longer and use it. In the scheme of things, it's quite okay. This one can be 2. Okay, this one will be 2. And it doesn't matter if I have more black or white. Like I said, I don't plan canes like this. I just let them happen. Because by the time you kaleidoscope anything, even if it's an ugly cane, and the pattern isn't too tiny, that's uneven. It's fine that they're different thicknesses, but within each string, you want them to be same. Because that way, each cane slice will match as you cut through them. So I might adjust these a little bit after we go. Okay, good enough. So we have our components for our bullseyes. I have more there if I need to roll some more out. We got our rainbow sheet at 2 millimeters, and our black and white sheet is about 1 millimeter. Now, like as I said before, let me rearrange this stuff here a little bit. Goes out of the way. You know, the old way was to cover the whole sheet with a black and white layer and then ripple fold it, fan fold it, back and forth upon itself to make it look like a brain pattern with the black and white separating. And like I said, I didn't like that because when I went to make it into a cane, the whole outside would be either black or white. And I don't make canes like that. I like to cut them into slices and arrange them. So first thing I'm going to do is scatter these along the way, making sure that, like this one's a little thinner here. I'm going to either try to push it back. I just like them to be the same from side to side. That one's a little thicker in the middle. Okay, and then here's some black ones. I'm not trying to make them equal distant either. They can be closer or farther. Oh, let's go white. I'll put a black in between. I don't know if you can see this whole thing. But I want them straight across. I don't know if you can see this whole thing or not. Let me pick it up. and go side to side a little bit just in case. This is my first time using my phone camera as a recording device for videos. I'm already not liking it. I like having my big iPad and I suspend it in a way that I can look up and see the screen as it's recording. I can't do that with my phone. Anyway, these are just getting scattered along the way. I'm gonna put one more black one on here. Okay, and they're random, okay? I'm gonna take this little block and kind of flatten them a little bit so they're stuck. Okay, and then I'm gonna flip it over. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to go somewhere in between. They can be close to one and leave a bigger space. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna need some more black, I think. I have a lot. And what I'm looking at the edge of the one that's coming out from underneath, kind of alternate them a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. I would like to get some down on the end where it's darker brown. Oh, let's see. I think this one will go here. Okay, I think that's good enough. That's plenty. Okay, I'm going to flatten those, which is also flattening the ones underneath of it. You can leave them round if you like, but they're going to squish anyway. And when you leave round bullseyes in canes, and you kaleidoscope the cane or the slices, you end up getting eyeballs, especially where they meet. Okay, so now we have our long rainbow blend with the little bullseye snakes added to them. This is not really necessary at this point. All right, so now we're getting to the broken part. And what the broken part is we're going to leave gaps. So we don't have to cover everything with our cane, with our sheet of clay. Okay, we're just gonna piece it broken. Use different widths, and we might go over top of a snake. That one's way crooked. And you see, that's something like, I don't put my canes together in 6 pieces into a block, a hexagon. I do each slice individually. That would make a difference if you were going to do that. So make sure they're straight across. When I cut 6 slices of this finished cane, that little variation between each slice is not going to make a difference. Some of them I'm putting upside down black. Oh, let's do this one white. I'm pressing down in to make sure I'm not trapping air. Let's do this one black. And you can do this shorter pieces. You can do strips like this, stuck randomly. I either like them to cover them or butt up against them. I wouldn't want to overlap. Like, I wouldn't want to go over top of that again. Let's put I'm putting the black side of this sheet over that white rod there at the end. That's going to be my end. I'm actually going to cut that off straight a little better. I'm going to straighten off the end of that brown. All right, I'm going to do the same thing towards this end. Put the black over. Trim off my brown a little bit at the end. Here's my other half a strip. I am going to cover this extra one here. That's kind of weird. Oh, that's what it is. Cover that one with black. Okay, so now, instead of having a whole strip of black and white, they're reversed. They're different directions. They are right side up and upside down with broken color in between them. Hence, broken brain cane. Now I'm going to take a little acrylic rod, medium thickness, like this. And I'm just going to make sure that everything's nice and tight and got the air pressed out. Here, there's one here and one here underneath that black. So there's a little bit of a dip. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm closing them all in. That one I just press straight. There's one underneath there. One underneath there. I don't want air gaps along the tubes. Okay. I don't know if I can straighten that one out or not. I don't think I can. Maybe a little. That one just goes up to that one. Make sure it's touching. There's the ones underneath too that I'm trying to make sure the clay going over it connects to the sides of it. I'm not smashing the ones underneath. All right. There we go. So, now we're going to pick this up. Loosen that half. Loosen this half. Whoops, that broke. That's fine. We can fix that. Flip this over. Flip this over. Put that break right back together. And then I'm going to cut up the rest of my strip. That's where it broke. I'm going to put white over that so that it's touching the black jelly roll underneath. Scatter these down the way. You don't have to do every one, but you can. I'm also, you can see here where clay's hanging out, so I know I got a space there. It kind of just naturally happens that way. Put white on black. White on black. Black over white. And your strips can be different widths too. I'm pushing these in good with my fingers on this side. I don't want to really have to use my rod. Need to get some down this way. Now that goes out there. I'm just going to cover just the very edge of that one so I have more coming onto the clay. And these strips are anywhere from, 3/4 of an inch to 1 1/4 inches. And you don't have to do black on white. You can do white on white. I'm going to change that one. All right, this one, I'm gonna put black over white. And there's one. Okay. So there we go. Now let me clean this up here a little bit so nothing sticks to anything. And that came apart again, which is fine. I will fix that right now. I'm going to flip this over, flip this over, and get that lined up and smushed. I want the clay underneath. I don't know how I missed covering that. There's a piece right there. Okay, I'm going to, there's one that didn't get covered, it was fine. I'm pressing in along all those gaps, making sure wherever my rod went, that everything is tucked down along the sides of those snakes. Okay, we're good. I'm calling it. Now, let me get this off of here so I'm on my paper that slides and not on the plastic. All right, so, oh, you're killing me. I'm leaving that sit there. All right, so there will be an inside to our triangle and an outside, but you can control, you just don't want to roll this up. What we're doing is, I'm going to first fold this edge in, this straight cut edge in, and I might start to roll over that, but then I'm going to reverse. Now if I do that, that brown's going to touch that, so I'm going to leave that like that and fold it, try to fold it onto that white strip, but then go back the other direction. Okay, and it doesn't, you're not fan fold, we're not accordion folding it. Get up here. We're going different directions, but try to keep the colors straight as you're going. And tight, and no air. See how that's off there? I need to make that more together. And then you might take a turn and actually start a full roll, but no, don't go all the way. And then turn it back on itself. Now there, that's split apart, and that's fine. Just pinch it back together. And this piece broke off, which gives me some options here. I don't want to keep going around that way. I want to go back on itself. This needs to go just like that. Pressing it against itself. And I'm going to bend it backwards. Close any cracks if you can. I'm going to go back a little bit more until I get to that black. And then I'm going to bring the black back across this purple. And then I will fold the other way. And now I might, at this point, start in a different direction. Make like an appendage, if you would. Instead of trying to go wrap like, you know, half, 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 I'm going in a totally different direction. I'm going to cut this so you can see what's going on a little bit. You can see a little bit there what's going on. So I just came from that way. So I'm just gonna, I did a little bit of a fold and then I'm gonna go back the other way. trying to keep things straight. And then come here. Now look at my outside. Different colors. All different colors, so I don't have something where I'm going to put something that looks like it's wrapped in back. Now this end here, I'm just going to fold over and then keep rolling and tuck it down in that space. Now what I'm looking for here on the outside, see how it's wide there and thin there? Let's push this end more. We're looking for straight bands of color that are even end to end. Let's have to pull apart a little bit and push that down in to make that band a little bit better. Not much I can do with some of that. I can feel the different hardness and softness of the different clay colors. Okay, that's probably as much as we're going to get. Now I can choose to close that all in some more there. Now I kind of have a roundish triangle. It's kind of like this. I'm going to give it a little bit of a squeeze on 2 triangle sides at a time. I'm not trying to stretch it at all. I'm just compressing. All right. So this is going to be my top. That white point there. This red line will be my second point of my triangle. I need to move those together so that the lines are more straight. There's kind of a dip in there, which I'll take care of. And then the top will be where this maroon and white pieces match. Okay, so now I have more of a triangle. And we're compressing. We're not stretching. We're just pushing everything together. Not trying to make ridges in the middle of the cane. This is a honking big cane. Yeah, you don't... I'm more worried about my lines of color being more straight, but that's what I got. Pushing that up, pulling this down. There's still a dip in here. I need to get that closed. I'm holding it like this and slapping it. Turn it around. I might have to edit out that loud noise. Here I still have... Okay, I'm going to cut into the end so you can see where we're going with this. Since I have so much. That's what we're getting. Now, looking at this, I probably could have had thicker color and thinner, or just thinner black and white. It could have been thinner. But it is what it is. They're all different. I'll cut a little more of that off. Now this is kind of crazy looking. I wish I would have had more fallness to it. I could have used ecru instead of white. If you do use ecru instead of white, make sure you add some white to it and maybe a pinch of brown, because ecru is also in a translucent base. All right, so now you can see this cane's way too big for this form, okay? So what I'll probably do, and it's not ready yet, we got a lot of compression to do. What I normally do, it's usually not this big. That extra, if I make my cane with my rainbow blend like I normally do, I'm not adding all that extra black and white. That's why mine ended up so big. So what I'm doing here, I have the cane set on the edge of a tile, and I'm holding my hand on this side, and I'm just pressing. I'm worried about compression, not reducing it. We need to get the air out of it. We need to get all the clay. I'm relining it up on the edge of that tile. We need to get all the clay compressed. And when I work this way versus reducing a cane, what happens is the ends of it bulge out so that you don't, when you go to reduce it then, the ends are already bulged out, so you're just sucking them back, hopefully just to normal. So I'm going to press this a few more times. I'm going to cut off that other end. It's a big honking mess. Oh, I like that end better. See? That's what we're getting. So maybe I'll make part of this square and part of it triangle. But I don't, that's the thing, I don't typically put canes together. I put each individual slice together. But we can do one like that. All right. And compressing it this way, that little bit of edge gives me the angle I need. You just don't want to press in the middle. I'm pressing at the top and down at the bottom. Slightly in the middle, but you don't want to create a dip. If you create a dip in the channel in the center area here, you will never get rid of that dip. Pressing against the plate and against down and against the bottom. Get some at that end. I just did that side. I need to do this side. Well, let's do this side. Pressing up against the plate at the top and pressing in and down at the bottom, both at the same time. All right, we're pretty much to a triangle. Is it perfect? Well, I don't know. And this is way bigger than the normal person needs to work. This is a much better size. See how much bigger that is? So I'm going to reduce this down the way I do it to get closer to this size. And the first thing I do is I put down a piece of packing tape or paper, painter's tape. That's how wide my cane's going to be. Okay, and you can see, I don't know which side of the camera on, we're still about less than a ½ an inch wider than we need to be. And we're only going to press on one area. We're going to press down and in along both sides. I'm going to flip it down and in on the sides. And eventually you'll get to where you'll feel the tape. You'll feel the tape. But if you get each side perfectly to the width of that tape, you will have an equilateral perfect triangle. Pressing down and in. Now I'm starting to get bulges. And that's fine for right now. But you don't want to press down the middle. Give it a little twist. Down to the table and in at the bottom. And then if you want, you can use this with your hand against the other side flat and press in the bulge. This is how the side of a cane should look, with all your lines parallel. There shouldn't be like that, which is not that bad, but you know, you shouldn't really have that when you're making perfect kaleidoscope canes. But this one's organic. Where it comes into a disadvantage is if you were going to cut this into 6 pieces and put it together into a hexagon cane, then you don't have perfect alignment between some of the pieces. Because if this piece matches this piece, they're totally different. So in that pattern, you will see a slight variation. Most people wouldn't notice it, but it drives me nuts. Okay, I'm getting there. Now you can see my ends are hardly sucked in at all. Okay, and if I wanted, I can press them down. I'm not trying to push it back short, but just trying to press those out flat. All right, I'm going to cut this in half, and I'm going to save half for a square and half for the rectangle. But this is what we have. This is the brain cane, broken brain cane. And this is quite large. If I put 6 slices of this together, it's going to be big enough for a ring dish or a small dish. But for jewelry, for like a pendant, it's way too big. No one wants to wear a pendant that big around. That's why, you know, this, the height of that is a perfect height for pendants and earrings. If you watch my earring video, I show how I use 2 slices of a cane to make earrings. We take 2 slices and put them together and cut the slices and use our earring cutters to decide on an area and cut out matching earrings. So I'm going to set this one aside. Now, this is not too long to go against my block. Press. This compression pushes the ends out. That way you don't get the sucked in ends. Line it up. I'm using the flat of my fingers. I'm not trying to push one finger in that middle area. This finger, my ring finger's pressing in at the end. My top finger's pressing against the top. And the middle finger is just kind of sitting there doing it, no job at all, just kind of being there. All right. Back to here. Now this will help me perfect the shape. And now, because I cut that half of that away, you can see this end to this end, they're much more alike. You know, the ends are much more alike. So if you did put 6 pieces together, they're going to match more precisely. Don't forget to turn your cane around both directions. Your hands don't work in an even pressure way. So if you keep flipping the cane on just one side like I'm doing here, without ever spinning it around, you're not going to get even compression. Let's see how that's going. That's almost there. Now, I'm going to let that set for a second. This was the prototype we made. It was a different material, it was shiny, so the clay stuck to it. So I covered it with tape, but I really like that. This is 3D printed, so it has little ridges in there, and I don't want to clean that. I really don't. And somewhere I have a roll of thicker tape. I'm going to set that down at the bottom. No, that didn't work. You don't want it sticking to it. You want to get it right down in the point and then lay it against there. And this again is called a clay cradle from createalong.com. I helped design it. Okay. Now I should probably cover that at the top, which I will. It's not a big deal. I just really don't want to clean anything. It's enough to get your studio clean, let alone cleaning each individual tool. I have another roll of tape that's wider than this, which already goes over the edge, and since I spent the last 2 days reorganizing my studio, I can't find anything. Okay, good enough. Okay, so that way you won't have any cleanup, and this is slightly textured, so the clay doesn't stick that good. Now, when you're using this, you're not trying to push it in to make your point. Where you're making your points are right here on these edges. And I'm just pressing it in even. I'm trying to get it inside this edge line here. So just pressing it in a little bit, compressing. Compression will push the ends out. You can press it a little bit like that, but don't go too far. You don't want to press this out over the edge. It'll just make a mess on the ends of your cane, which I shouldn't have done that till it was a little bit closer. You can pull it out, turn it to the next side, and I'm pressing, really what I'm doing is I'm pressing down and towards this side. But this is a little hanging over the edge, so I have to get it in a little bit first. But I am pressing down there too. And releasing it. And just keep working. Give it a little bit of a stretch. Get some of the height off of it. You can see this is skinnier here. There's no reason for the average crafter to make giant canes. There really isn't. Okay, so there I am. I'm inside my... So now I'm pressing down and against that side, that way, that direction, and that direction. I'm not trying to have that point refine my cane. I'm trying not to press in the center. I'm pulling away from the center, but that's pulling the cane, the clay that direction, flattening this out instead of, I don't want to press a channel down in the middle. And you will quickly figure out how this works. I think I just did that side. One more turn. How do I keep getting? I need that side. Okay. See, we can do that without squishing it over the edge or good. Now here I have a little bit of a dip. So I'm just going to push that back a little and press out. And if I need to, this all feels perfect. Just running my fingers along the points. Slightly thinner than my tape, but if I line it up on my tape, I should have the same amount of tape on the other side showing. All right, now this needs to rest before I would slice it and make anything out of it. Let's take a couple cuts and see what they do. This is another art you need to learn, lining up your slices, following the contact points of like patterns as you go, wiggling it into a perfect match. Yep. I don't know that. Shut up or not. And then you have your 3 different patterns. This cane is so hot and sticky. So I'm going to take a couple slices, and then I'm going to reduce the other one square. Too thin. I use my Lucy slicer when I do this. I'm horrible at freehanding it. Because if your slices don't match equally, let's put this red side together. If your slices don't match perfectly in thickness, when you go to smooth them, oh man, this is like working with butter. When you go to smooth them together, like this one's higher. So if I was going to smooth this, what will happen is the clay has to go somewhere and it'll distort. If every slice is the same thickness. A little bit more work. But if every slice is the same thickness, you won't have that distortion if you put them together perfectly. And this is like liquid. This is almost like liquid clay. Anyway. So I don't want to waste too many slices. Let me throw one more on there. So you can see more of the pattern. I'm watching every connection point, matching them up as I put it together. Okay? Do one more slice. I'm just Just going to set that one there. I'm not going to try to... Usually what you do is you put 3 together and 3 together and then put the 2 halves together. But there's the pattern. Very cool. And then you'll have 3 different patterns to work with. You can take those and put 2 different sides together to start, and that will dictate the rest of it. Oh, I ripped one. I usually work on cardstock. Let's see. Let's get this one here. But you can see the patterns will change. You have 3 different patterns to work with when you work this way. Okay. So, this cane, it's pretty much a perfect equilateral triangle. It's hot. It's sticky. I'm going to cut the other end in. You see I have very little waste at the end. Compression first before reduction. And that end of the cane is nice too. Love it. So, the regular brain cane would just be black and white. And if you can see, if we had black wrapped on this whole outside of this cane, from the way the original brain cane pattern works, you would have spokes between every slice, and it breaks up the pattern. It's horrible. It looks like stained glass maybe, but I don't like it. I've actually made a cane like this before, like that, and I ended up shaving all the black off the outside. You can see all those intricate patterns, and it was very easy. This is not rocket science, but precision all through the process really helps you get more perfect canes. I'll do the last show here. And I will be making some things out of this cane in my next video. But I want to show you the square. Here's the square. I lost half my cane. This process is the same. But see, now you can see, boom. Oh, I wanted to show you another trick with this too. So say I'm going to cut this in half. Or I'm going to cut a chunk off of this. The square is the same process. Is my blade upside down? No. Okay, the square is the same process, but you're going to have to reduce it out and then press down to make it a triangle that's wider on one side and shorter on each side, and then start working with this. I'm not going to do that now. It's the same thing. But I want to show you this neat trick. So you have a perfect equilateral triangle of a big cane. Watch this. Now, I wish this was more intricate, or if it was bigger, it would probably be better. So we're going to mark it a third. I'm marking it in the halfway marks here. Okay, a half, and a half. Okay. So, oh man, I can't see. Now, trust me, the marks are there. So I'm going to cut that there. And then cut from that halfway mark to here. And from this halfway mark to that halfway mark. That out there. Okay. Now you have 4 different canes. And let's try that same process, because this is smaller jewelry size without reducing the scale of your pattern. This one I might be able to put together if I cut 6 of them. This is good. Now, And always keep your slices in order. 2 slices next to each other are the most alike. Oops. Well, I think I need to cut another slice. Is that correct? I do. Now, if this was a much bigger cane, cut one more. If this was a bigger cane, so I cut it into 4 pieces. Well, each piece has 3 patterns that you can put together. So that's now 12 patterns. My brain's not working. It's late at night. Nope, this way. Okay. So that's last slice. It's a little messed up, but we're going for it. You'll get the idea. I teach a Kaleidoscope workshop. Oh, that's not right. And it's like a 2 or 3 day course. Anyway, you can get the idea. This is not, it's much easier to work by the slice than I'm making it look here, especially if your clay is leached. But there's one pattern. And you could, if you made a big cane, like if I use that whole cane and cut it up and was careful, I could make a big sheet of that and kaleidoscope it. Like, you know, one right after the other and make hexagons. But that's a perfect jewelry size. It really is. So now I have one cane with 12 variations. And you might like some more than other. I'm going to cut these up because I'm not going to use it for something else other than demonstration. I can barely see tonight. Okay, that's 5. One more. 6. That one's going to be nice. I'm usually looking straight down over my work when I'm working, and I know I will be off camera if I do that. So this one kind of has an animal feel to it. Okay, nope, that one I did backwards. Huh. So that's outside. So this is outside color. That's the inside color. Outside color, inside color. So I gotta make sure I'm building it right. Because if I put this third one, okay, so that dark area is equal to that. If I put this on the wrong side, like that, it's not gonna match. Or did I do one of these wrong? No. 2 dark ones together. Let me put this in here. There it is. So there's that pattern. And these are all different thicknesses. Because when I started working and making canes, I already had a Lucy slicer. Anyway, you can see all the variegated patterns you can get from one cane. I like the big version myself. I like that big area. And 6 slices of this is going to make a pendant about that big around. By the time you cut the circle, after you put 6 slices together and cut a circle pendant out of it. I will include some pictures of some older ones I made. And you can see the difference. But most of my pendants are 2.5 inches across. Most of these canes are regular Kaleidoscope canes built in a different way. But the concept of having perfect equilateral triangles and putting 6 slices together with leached clay that's firm and dry is much easier to work with. When I put my cane slices together, I then follow by cutting a circle of 2¼ to 2½ inches in diameter to make my domed pendants. Here is one Kaleidoscope cane made into the 3 versions from the triangle. And this necklace was made from my first biology brain cane, the one where I had to trim the sides off to get rid of the black, period. I make all my pendants domed hemispheres. You can hang them together or individually, but my favorite way to hang them is on my signature easy back, which is in my 3 pendant class. Whatever the scale of they look like in the picture. But these are nice. These would be very nice. Okay, I'm back with the square clay cradle. Oh man, sorry, it's late at night here, and I am a night person. But this is not quite there yet. It's a little too big, and you don't want to put it in. You don't want to put it in there and smash it. That is not a good idea. You're better off pulling, making it wide on one side of your cane and pressing down the top. You want it basically that shape when you put it in there. This is for perfecting your shapes. So I will continue to press down and pull out, and you can use your tile and line that up on there and press over even farther. Turn it around, press over farther, press down. I'm pressing the top down. And if you're working on a non-slip surface, the clay will have somewhere to go. All right, let's see how that fits in there. That's getting there. It's a little too much clay for the volume, so I'm going to stretch it out some more, keeping that right triangle shape, pressing it down, twisting, trying not to break it. This clay is very sticky. All right, let's see. Now I need to press it down. All right, we're close. I'm going to use that just a little bit now that we're close. Just don't cram it in there. Just give it a little bit of a press. Pull it out, stretch it a little, put it back in gently. You don't want the clay going over the edge or you'll screw up the points. Now we're there. So I'm pressing down. Don't let the clay go over the edge. There's a hump here in the middle. So I can start working on that. I'm going to press it just a little bit. If you smash too hard, that clay is going to go right over that edge. And the same thing before. I'm pressing against these two edges, but not over them. And do not take your roller and roll back and forth. You will just shred the clay right over the edge. Just take your time, pull it out, put it back in. Every time you take it out and put it back in, you're releasing the tension out of the clay so it can move. Okay, let's cut this and see what I have. Okay, so there's pieces put into a square cane. I'm going to cut the waste off the other end. This is way too big for my liking. But you can see what the cradle does. It lets you really perfect your size. Now, Here's something like that. I'd want to pull that line straight. This is a good time to perfect any end-to-end differences. Okay, I don't usually do this, but just for you, I am going to try and make a square cane. Not that I've never made a square cane. So first we're going to cut it in half. And we're going to put this together perfect at this end. See that white squiggle line there? That's what I'm looking at. And then I'm working up towards this end, matching those 2 dots there. Making sure everything's perfect. And my points match perfect. Then I'm coming down the cane, wiggling like this, to make sure things are in alignment all the way end to end. Then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Now this was the crappy end of the cane. That's where I cut it and opened it up. That will always be a better side. But this isn't too far off, and there's enough wiggle room. Okay, so now press the points. Close up the cane. It's still pretty square. Whoops, that's the wrong. I'm just using this form to keep it square and compress it together. Just a little bit on each side. Okay. So now we're going to do reduction. A little bit. And I don't ever roll. Stroke like this. That keeps your corners here nice and straight. I think I learned that from Julie Eakes in one of her videos. If you want to see someone that really can make beautiful canes in highly detailed perfection, Julie Eakes, E-A-K-E-S. She has a couple videos on YouTube, but she is a master artist of epic proportions. I hope she hears that. All right. So I'm not rolling it. I'm just stroking the outside. Now there, see my clay is really soft and warm. Now let me go back to twisting and stretching. I don't want to get sucked in edges. I hate losing that clay at the end. But compression is always better than reduction with squeezing and too much rolling. Now let's see what rolling does here. That fixes that in. But once you start doing this, you don't know what your pressure is. If you're gentle, you're fine. I really think this is a better process, especially if you have firm clay. This is Sculpey Primo. It's pretty much my 90% of what clay I use is Sculpey Primo. Okay, now another thing, look at the stripes. They're fairly even. And that's what you want, because when you cut this into sections and then put it together, you need that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cut this in half. You can cut each half in half. It has a little bit of... Now when you open these, just don't keep them random. Take them apart and open these two. That's awesome. This is the back end, crappy end of the cane. See, that clay is stuck together already. Same thing here. Open. Make sure they're aligned perfectly. If you don't pull them all the way apart, you have a much better chance. Now, we're going to decide if we're going to put it that way or this way. I like this way. So I'm starting it here. That purple, I don't know if you can see that fuchsia right there, that thin little line. That's what I'm putting together first. Then the purpley area there, working down towards the point of that green, to the black line right there where the lime green and then the gold color meet. And then I have to stretch it a little like this to get those two black ovals to match up. And then see how this is out of sync here? So now we have to push it back. We want to stick that part. Okay, I want this part to stick right here. Now I'm working on this other half. Making sure that all matches. And this is a better size to work in than trying to make a giant cane. And then having it being 6 feet long, because the longer it gets, the less likely those pieces are going to match. And I'm going to try to line up this backside, but this backside has a lot of dips and bumps in it with the crappy ends. But I can do it. All right. There we go. That's actually quite nice. Out of a simple broken brain cane. I'm going to press it flat like this. I would not even attempt. I am going to take a slice off of here for the camera, but I would rather wait until it's much cooler. Much, much cooler. Just trying to get it a little smaller and compressed. All right, here goes nothing. Clean my blade. Oh yeah, squish, squish, squish. Did I get it all? Okay. So now you remember when I was making the cane and I had that little part of where I overlapped the black and white sheet over top of the edge of another one? That's what that is. That's what you're seeing. But it's fine. I don't know if it'll be farther when I cut in. Let me cut the back off of the bad side and see what happens there. Because sometimes that's only in a couple slices. Yeah, ooh, that's nice. There we go, let me straighten this out. There you go. And then you can take slices of that and put them together. And I really urge you to learn how to leach your clay so you're working with firm clay, not sticky, soft stuff like this is. But you could put this together into a big enough sheet to cover a piece of furniture with, or a vase. You don't have to work in tiny, tiny pieces or just having a ring bowl be your largest piece. That's actually quite nice. I think this in about 60 slices put into like a 12 by 12 square or something like that would be awesome. It would probably be about 72 slices. There you go. I hope you enjoyed this. I will make some things, simple things, pendants, and maybe a pair or two of earrings. This is not something that you put through the pasta machine to stretch out. You know, you can perfect something like this by attaching it to a tile, using the back side of your blade. This is all lumpy because it's the back part. But using your blade to pull the edges in and perfect it. These are many steps back and forth. Really nice, perfect pieces just don't happen with, you know, cookie cutters. It's little bits of adjusting along the process. I like that cane. And I was afraid the purple would have been too much, but I really like how it looked. This is, you know, I wouldn't call it a totally fall palette. It's a little dark for that. I could have probably, when I put my strip of translucent across, I probably could have put a strip of white, a little bit less than that, through and brighten the colors up. Because when you start getting this small, you need the bright white, like the bright dividing lines to keep the detail. Otherwise, if we keep making this smaller and smaller and making it a cane about that big, it's just gonna look like green and orange. You're gonna lose the detail. So that's one thing with cane building. You need to learn about the scale you want to work in. And the best way to learn that is just keep making them. This is enough to make, oh, probably 6 pendants. Now, when I say a pendant, I would take it and get it perfectly smooth. Perfectly smooth. I like making round pendants. If you watch my two-part video with 3 pendants, 3 bales, where I show how to make an easy back. Let me see. So like here, I'll just show you a quick thing. This isn't the best cutter, but what I'm doing, I'm looking here and here and here and here and here. I'm looking for equal distance space between the points of the cutter, where the cutter sits and the pattern are, all the way around. Now this cutter's just a hair too big, so this is a big no-no. But I'm gonna just roll it out a little bit so you get the point. Okay. I'm looking at different points, like that white there. The white there on that side is bigger than it is on the other side, so I have to move that direction away from it to make that even. Anyway, the more precise you work, now we have a round pendant that we can dome and make an easy back out of. This one is horrible. There's dents and this was the back piece. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the cane class. There's lots to do with them. Where's my triangle? And all their various sizes. There's a lot of different things you can do with canes. But anyway, have a good evening. Thanks so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it and I could teach you something. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and tell your friends. Thank you, and thanks for subscribing.